Hello, thank you for joining me again. As promised, today I'm going to do a book review, and I'll probably do a short review on the Kindle Paperwhite. I just bought it. This has a cover on, as you can tell, but yeah, this is how big it is. So I'll begin with the book review. I haven't done one since House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski. If you want to check that out, it's really long, but it's a unique book, so check that out. But yeah, I think for the longest of time, I had this thing when if someone asked me, "Oh, what's the best book you've ever read?" I was like, "No, you cannot ask me that because it's like picking your children. If you have children, it's like, oh, who do you love more? I can't. Like, there are so many genres, so many ways of telling a story, and it's really hard to pick one book. Like, you can't do that. But few days, few days, well, I think like 2 weeks ago, about that time, um, I've read this book that I'm totally in love with. Like, I can honestly say that, well, at this point in my life, it's the best book I've ever read. Seriously. And I will read you a little bit from it, just the beginning, so I'm not spoiling anything. But if you don't want to know anything like being written from it, you may want to stop at some point. Anyway, so the best book I have ever read is called Call Me By Your Name, and it's written by André Aciman. I could even begin to analyze. I don't like analyzing books. I just want to enjoy the story, and yeah, that's it. But I will try to give you a little bit of the flavors of this book. It's like so beautiful. So I'll show you the book cover. I have it on my Kindle, so I don't have it in print. I bought the audiobook as well because after I finished the ebook, because it's a different medium and I love listening to books, although I don't listen to books as much as I would like to. But yeah, so at the moment I'll show the book cover. This is the book cover. Maybe I'll put a color book cover as well if I'm not too lazy. But yeah, this is the book cover. They also have that's an older cover, I think, but it's the one I really like. The newest cover it has the main actors in the movie, because by the way, that's how I found out about this novel. There's a movie being made after it, the same title, Call Me By Your Name. It's played, the main actors are Timothée Chalamet and Armie Hammer, and the book cover, the newest book cover, has them on it. But I don't really like the pictures they picked. They could have picked so many other images from the movie. Anyway, my personal opinion. So yeah, I prefer this one. Actually, I could probably show you the other cover as well. Yeah, it's like it's there. You can see it. It's a bit of a weird angle, but yeah, it doesn't make that has nothing to do with the written content really. So I will read you. I think I'll read you something said by another author about this book. And yep, my Kindle is being a bit slow. Right, let's see. So when I downloaded the sample after I've seen the trailer of the movie, I was like, oh, I must, if there's a novel, because I watched a review and someone was mentioning, oh, there's a book, and yeah, she was so excited. I loved that review. It was a bit crazy, but it was really fun to watch. So I was like, oh, this is a book, I must read the book, because the movie looks amazing, and I bet the book is probably not better, because making a movie is really difficult. coming from a film background, I know how hard it is to make a movie, and the way that movie looks, it looks amazing. So I can only imagine how well written the novel is. Yeah. So I'll read you this quote by Nicole Cross, who I think written The History of Love, another book that I really enjoyed reading. So she said about this book and the writing in it: if you are prepared to take a hard punch in your gut and like brave, acute, elated, naked, brutal, tender, humane and beautiful prose, then you've come to the right place. If you can't handle the violence of regret the novel will awaken in you, or the agony of remembering wanting someone more than you wanted anything in your life, or the exquisite suffering that comes with the gain and loss of something that neared perfect understanding, then don't read this book. Ditto if you like your literature censored. Otherwise, open the cover and let Aciman pull the pin from the grenade. When I read this quote, when I downloaded the samples, if I like the writing style, I was like, this is just amazing. Like, and after I finished reading the book, I still agree. Like, she not analyzed, but her opinion about the book is as mine. Is like, maybe she puts it in better words, but it's exactly like described here. It's the language of the novel is so beautifully written. The beginning is a beautiful beginning. The ending, it ends. It uses the name of the novel, Call Me by Your Name. It introduces right at the end. It introduces the title. So it uses the title of the novel so well, but not just putting it in there. It's so well. And the middle of the novel is just, at no point in the story I was bored or I don't know, I was like, oh, I need to put it down. The only reason I had to put it down was because I not necessarily had to sleep, but, well, I suppose I had to sleep because I had to go to work in the morning, or, but I still stayed up late to finish like another chapter and another chapter. What can I say about this book? I'll read you the first chapter or the first paragraphs of the book, because that's not really spoiling. Anyone can download a sample and read from it, and then I'll speak a bit more about the novel and my personal feelings about it, which, as you can tell, I highly praise this novel. So part 1. If not later, well, apologies if I don't pronounce, like, my intonation is not as you expect maybe, but yeah, it's the way I can read it. So, part 1. If not later, when? Later, the word, the voice, the attitude. I'd never heard anyone use later to say goodbye before. It sounded harsh, curt and dismissive, spoken with the veiled indifference of people who may not care to see or hear from you again. It is the first thing I remember about him, and I can hear it still today. Later, I shut my eyes, say the word, and I'm back in Italy so many years ago, walking down the tree-lined driveway, watching him step out of the cab, billowy blue shirt, wide open collar, sunglasses, straw hat, skin everywhere. Suddenly he's shaking my hand, handing me his backpack, removing his suitcase from the trunk of the cab, asking if my father is home. It might have started right there and then. The shirt, the rolled-up sleeve, the rounded balls of his heels, slipping in and out of his frayed espadrilles, eager to test the hot gravel path that led to our house every stride, already asking, which way to the beach? This summer's house guest, another bore. Then, almost without thinking, and with his back already turned to the car, he waves the back of his free hand and utters a careless later to another passenger in the car who has probably split the fare from the station. No name added, no jest to smooth out the ruffled leave-taking, nothing. His one-word send-off. brisk, bold, and blunted. Take your pick. He couldn't be bothered which. You watch, I thought. This is how he'll say goodbye to us when the time comes. With a gruff slapdash later. Meanwhile, we'll have to put up with him for 6 long weeks. I was thoroughly intimidated, the unapproachable sort. I could grow to like him, though, from the rounded chin to rounded heel. Then, within days, I would learn to hate him. This, the very person whose photo on the application 4 months earlier had leapt out with promises of instant affinities. So, the story basically is about Elio and Oliver. It's located, it takes place in Italy, and it's, I don't want to say that it's just a love story because it's so much more to me. After I finished reading it and during the time I was reading it, I felt I need to calm down. I felt like it was a love letter. We see the story or the unfolding events through the eyes of Elio, the main character, I suppose. Yeah, we see everything through his eyes, and let me tell you, he gets so many things wrong because when you're young, you make your own ideas about people, especially when you're in love with someone or attracted to someone and desire them. He becomes so Oliver comes to Italy and he's like a guest in Elio's house, his father's house, and Elio becomes a little bit obsessed with Oliver, let's put it that way, but it's a good obsession, let's say. It's not crazy kind, but so yeah, he, as you can tell from the beginning, he analyzes the way Oliver talks, the way he dresses, all sorts of things, and what he thinks Oliver does, so many things. I don't want to say too much because I would not spoil it, because this novel is an experience you have. Even if I were to tell you what's happening beginning to end, you still have to read the novel, because I could never tell you exactly and give you the same feeling that the novel does as you read it. It's so beautifully written, the detail, the language. I'm like, as an author myself, I would, if I could write as well as André Aciman, I would be woo. Maybe in a few years' time, hopefully. But yeah, he writes. I've never read anything by André Aciman. This is the first novel, so I don't know. But I think I'm gonna read another book by him. I think it's called Enigma Variations. That sounds interesting as well. What should I mention? So yeah, as I was saying, the beginning of the novel, the middle, the end, it for me, a novel to be like very good, like I'm very, I don't know, I'll enjoy stories. So even if a novel is flawed, I'm not like, oh, this is a crap novel, unless it's like terribly written. But I haven't really had that much bad luck with novels to find one that's terribly written. If it wasn't greatly written, the story was interesting, it's still, so I what was I saying? But to say that a novel is the best novel, obviously is subjective. People might like fantasy, they might like romance, they might like history novels, all sorts of things. But for me, I like reading across genres. For me, a story is a story. If it's well written, it can be sci-fi, which I don't read that much, or dystopian, but if it's well written, if it puts me in the shoes of the character, that's what a novel is supposed to do. It's supposed to immerse you in the world of those characters. And with this, like, you feel all the feelings Elia feels, like all the loss, the desire, all the insecurities. For me, at least, I felt really connected to this novel. Like, it's a time, like, when you're still discovering yourself, and even if you're older, like, because the novel spans across like 20 years, I think. It's quite, yeah, it begins when Elio is 17, which in Italy is legal age, whatever, for an adult. And yeah, I think it continues for quite a long time, which the movie doesn't. It finishes earlier, but there might be a sequel. Anyway, so yeah, it's about the exploration. When you're young, you don't know exactly if you're in love with a person or you desire them, and when you get something, but then you're like, what if I'm wrong or whatever? I don't know. You never know. So this novel gives you that feeling, like I was in his shoes all the time. I mean, obviously, I was able to see the other characters because the writing was so beautiful and they felt so alive. But I wasn't bored at all. Like, I was so involved at many points in the story. I was like, oh no, don't do that, oh my god, no. It amazed me how involved I was, and how, not just involved, because you read a novel to be involved in the story, but I was just, I don't know, I felt it so well. There are a few things which are a bit weird in the story, but that doesn't make it less, because when you're in love, I suppose you do crazy things and you want to prove to the other person that you're in love, so you show them you do all sorts of things. So that didn't feel out of place, just was a bit weird. I wouldn't personally do that. And if you've read the novel or you're going to read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's like one or two moments when I was like, okay, come on, I get the point. You don't actually have to do that. But it was still so well written, and it is quite sexual. It's not like, it has sexual content in it, but it's so beautifully written. I mean, this is like 17 minutes. It feels like I've been speaking for 3 minutes. What have I been talking about that much? So I should cut it short now. Yeah, I don't know if I'll find another novel that impressed me so much. It's just, as I was saying, the beginning is beautifully written. The middle is really interesting. You follow the story. The language used is so nice, so well written, and the ending, it just wraps it. So it's like it wraps you in a blanket. Even if you're like sad and you're wondering, like, what happened, at the same time you don't want to know more because you feel like you know enough about them. And I don't know if I mentioned, but the whole novel feels like a love letter. It's at times like the main character addresses us. It's written in first person, so it addresses the reader. But at many times he kind of speaks to Oliver, and it's like writing a love letter to the loved one, or someone you've really, really loved, and you want them to know, but there's so many things unspoken, unsaid, and it's just like heartbreaking, and yet at the same time it's so much more than just the love between two people, because it explores other things as well. And it's just, I don't know, I felt really fulfilled reading this novel. I didn't feel alone. I felt, yeah, I didn't feel alone. I just, as Diane Cross was saying, it's just it's just it's like a grenade once you open it, but it's like a good kind. I mean, there's no good kind of grenade, but if you read it, it's just, you must read it. Like, I I wish I could read you like highlighted areas, passages, but I don't want to spoil it for you because I want you to enjoy the novel if you decide to read it. And please, please do. It's such a beautiful novel. Um, yeah, I'm sure after I finish recording this, I'll be like, oh, I should have mentioned that and that, and all sorts of things. But yeah, as I was saying earlier, the main character, he gets so many things wrong, and many times I was like, dude, you have to calm down, because he gets so many things wrong, and he thinks all these things about Oliver, and you towards the, well, I don't want to spoil it. Like, it, so many other things are revealed, and you think, oh, he got them so wrong. Like, you didn't even think, because you see it through his eyes, you see the story through his eyes, so you go on this experience with him and feel what he feels. But at the same time, as an adult who've been through things, I can imagine, like, maybe he's carried away, because I used to get carried away by things. And I realized that sometimes, when you're in that fire, you, like, you can get really sad, angry, get back in love. It's I don't know. I can't even explain. Yeah, you have to read it. Also about the location, like, you feel the location, like you're in Italy. The cicadas, all the descriptions. It feels like another character a little bit, Italy, but it doesn't lose sight. Like, the story doesn't lose sight of what it's supposed to be, and to me that is and will be like a long a long love letter to the person you care, and not just that, it's a letter to love, like a love letter to being loved and loving life. Because, as I said, it's not just a love story between two characters. It's so much more than that, and that's what I like about this. So I should I should I want to say so much more. I cannot wait for the movie to come out. It came out in the UK where I live, but in the area I'm located, they are gonna show it like in a month. And I almost read wrong that this shows on the weekend, and it was actually a month in advance, which is November. I thought it's October. I almost went to the theater. Thank God I reread that. But yeah, so I cannot wait to go to see the movie. I'm sure I'll probably like the book more, but at the same time, the movie is so beautifully shot, and I feel like I'm gonna cry, like I felt reading the novel as well. But the movie, as I said, is a different medium, so it'll probably be a bit different. Uh, Also because it puts faces, like it has the actors, so you don't get to imagine them as much. While when you're reading the novel, you might have a different idea. But I think the casting was quite well done. So anyway, I'll leave you on that thought. I'll probably get back on the channel doing a book review, movie review, comparison, or not comparison, because I'll probably love them both. But it's just a different medium. So yeah, that's the best novel I have ever read so far, at least. But I think it will be. I think at the moment it's like my top. Not top, it's first novel, because it's not too long, it's not too short. The beginning, middle, end, both are perfectly written. All three are perfectly written. It's not boring, and yeah, that's what the novel is supposed to do. Make you feel so much more. It's such a universal love story. Like, um, yeah, I think it doesn't matter what sexual orientation you have. I think if you read this novel, you'd still feel that fire that you had when you were first in falling in love with someone, or even after more years. Um, yeah, it's beautiful, so beautiful. Um, enough about that. So yeah, I'll do a separate review for the Kindle because this is like 25 minutes long. It's crazy. I don't know if you guys are gonna listen to me talking for so long, and I repeated myself. Anyway, I hope you'll check out the novel because otherwise you're missing something. You're missing a lot, honestly. Um, So yeah, take care, and please let me know in the comments what you think about the novel, if you read it, or if you're after you read it, or you're thinking to read it. Yeah, I would love to know your thoughts. Take care and have a lovely afternoon. Bye.